Ladder anxiety is probably the one thing that holds many players back who are decent and good at the game from being competitive players. First of all, let me just define what ladder anxiety is. Well, anxiety by itself is just your body's natural response to stress. It's something everyone experiences whenever you're stressed out, whether that be via work or family life or anything that really should change how you live your day-to-day life. You have stress, then you have anxiety. When you throw a competitive ladder into the mix, ladder anxiety is what happens. Essentially, ladder anxiety is allowing ranked games to affect your mood. Often it results in you fearing playing the game because you might lose what you have fought so hard to gain. This creates a cycle. Essentially, you don't play the game enough to maintain your skill level at the game. You get worse, and it feeds your fears on losing your rank. Many players stop playing after they hit a certain rank, and this is fine, especially if they've achieved that rank. But often I think it's because they have a fear of continuing on and seeing how far they can play, or they think that this is as high of a skill rank as they go. I feel like this has stopped a lot of players who could be competitive and really limited how good they can get at this game. I think it's also relevant for those who don't have a lot of time. You think that you don't have as much time to catch up if you lose the rank that you already have. So I'm going to talk a little bit of how I have faced my fears when it comes to ladder anxiety, something that I think I still struggle a lot with, and how I've kind of improved. So one of the first things I realized that I was doing, especially if I get into this cycle of not wanting to play because I fear that I'll lose my ranks, I think one of the first things I do is I need to stop hyping myself up to lose. What I would often do was convince myself that I was going to lose the next match anyways, and if I even did hit play, then I would probably be in a bad mind state to go ahead and play the game. And then if I lost, I would often confirm my fears. I'm just going to lose my rank if I continue to play, and I would then stop playing. This is unhealthy. Hearthstone is a game that drives off of how much you play rather than how good you are. I'm going to come out with a video probably in the next week or two that's going to talk about how you can actually get to Legend with a 1% win rate. It all comes down to how much you play this game. When you play it more, you'll naturally start getting better at the game. And when you play it more, you'll likely be more interested in doing studying articles or studying videos about how to get better and go from there. If you don't play the game, you actually lose some of the skills that you've already learned. Essentially, you'll regress in progress. I found that the only way to overcome my fears of the ladder anxiety is by just facing them. Essentially, I have to force myself to play games of ranked, and then I lose this feeling after 3 or 4 games in. That's not to say that I've completely overcome everything with ladder anxiety. I still sometimes fear I'm going to lose my rank, especially when I get up to Diamond 1. Diamond 1 is my least favorite rank to be at because I feel that if I lose a couple of games or if I don't play perfectly, I'm not going to get to Legend. One thing I try to force myself to remember is that my skill level and me as a human being is not related to the rank that I'm at. It's so easy to see the rank as such a definitive idea of who you are as a Hearthstone player, who you are as a person. Try to focus more on improvement. Try to look at each game as a method of improvement, whether you won or lost. This will help you to slowly differentiate the idea between a win and a loss and essentially make it irrelevant if you won or lost, and the real winning is improvement. I'd say this is harder at Hearthstone than maybe a game like chess. Chess, you can look back and look at a computer and it'll tell you exactly where you've won or where you lost the game and tell you how you can improve for the next game. Hearthstone isn't like that. Some of it is very subjective. Sometimes you played correctly and still lost because of something that your opponent played or some RNG or some bad draws. And you just kind of have to accept that that's part of the variance. And I think that's a real problem with ladder anxiety is because you can have 3 or 4 of those games in a row and think that you've suddenly lost all the skill that you have. And sometimes not playing is actually the best way to alleviate ladder anxiety. I find that if I get really anxious about losing games, I'll just stop playing or I'll play a different game. The world doesn't revolve around Hearthstone and your life shouldn't revolve around it either. I would warn that taking too long of a break can prove pretty harmful, especially if you're planning on playing this competitively. Your skills do slowly erode over time. Often if I'm going to take a break from the game because of how anxious I get about playing the game, I'll usually give myself about a day to recover. I'll play some other game where I'll do some content creation. I won't think about the game and I won't think about how it relates to my skill level. I just realized that this camera is like... You guys have been missing my beautiful chin this whole video. I think everyone has to overcome ladder anxiety in their own way. I think it's important to address this issue if you feel this way. This will stop you from becoming a competitive player. It is important that you know that. So if you do plan, or if you want to even consider playing competitively or trying to get onto the Masters Tour, or even just getting to Legend in general, another thing to consider is if that Hearthstone causes you so much stress, maybe it's better that you find another hobby. You know, I hate to be the guy that's going to tell you that you probably shouldn't play Hearthstone if you can't handle it, but it might be the honest truth, because some people can't handle the stress of playing a competitive video game. The concept of playing video games for a living seems like such a dream, such an outlook for a lot of people, especially growing up on video games, that's really the only thing that you end up enjoying. But there is a lot more to life than just playing a video game competitively. In fact, I've had a very hard time recently playing anything casually. And I think that's more of a problem with me rather than the video games that I've been playing. So I'm really trying to both take a break and also play this game competitively. So it's a bit back and forth for me. And so I think this has really been a tough topic for me, and that's kind of why I wanted to make a video about it. I think that's really all that I wanted to talk about. If you do like this kind of content, be sure to like this video. One thing I will say is I have opened up a new Patreon. Essentially, you'll see my videos uploaded a little earlier than you would see them on YouTube. Also, Patreon will allow you to, I can coach you. If you're struggling to get to Legend, I do offer coaching services on my Patreon, so be sure to check that out. The link will be in the description below. But other than that, I think that's it for me.